Yo, what's up? What's up? What's going on? What's good, everybody? That's right. This is the Boxing Source Midweek Report, September 6th, 2023. We getting it on. We getting it cracking. We getting it going. You know what I'm saying? Uh, we have, a few things here that we're going to be, talking about here in this one, man. Let's get cool stuff, man. Let's get this thing going, man. You know what I'm saying? Um, like I said, we got a few topics that we're going to be going through here in this midweek report. You know what I'm saying? We want to go ahead and get this talk, jumped off. You know what I'm saying? Big ups to everybody that will be joining here live on the midweek report. Have I guess I would say a good number of things, man, that's been going down, man. But you know, we just want to talk about a few things here within the scope of the Boston stories. First off, we want to talk about the thing here with Regis Prograis. Then we also, want to talk about Levante Tank Davis. He's had a couple of posts that have been posted on Twitter, and that has had the boxing world buzzing as to uh, what his next fight could be. You know, uh, and with that being said, we're going to talk about those possibilities for Devontae Tank Davis. As he'll have looks like one more fight here in 2023, and then also we want to jump into Jermell Charlo as he prepares for his bout against Canelo Alvarez. So you want to go ahead and talk about a couple of things here that have been brought up in reference to that upcoming fight, September 30th in Las Vegas. You know what I'm saying? But outside of that, you know, have like I guess you would say maybe a few other things that we might be able to talk about here if time permits. But just wanted to knock out those top things or top stories so far here when it comes to those particular topics. I know that there also was talking about Jermell Charlo mentioning Terrence Crawford and what the next or potential move could be for Terrence Crawford, but that is a whole nother thing within itself. So we want to get into it. Like I said, with Regis Prograis, who is the WBC super lightweight champion. He did make a post that was listed on Twitter as far as like, what could potentially be some, as he says, good news when it comes to what his next potential fight would be. Now, he had made that particular post, and this has been up to this point 8 hours ago. Now, of course, Progress has been mentioned to potentially face the undisputed lightweight champion Devin Haney, as Devin Haney would be moving up to 140 pounds to face Regis Progress for that WBC title. And of course, with the news of Shakur Stevenson versus Frank Martin eventually going to be for the vacant WBC lightweight title, that leaves Devin Haney to go up and to face Regis Progress. But it seemed like over the past week and a half or so that we were it seemed like fight fans and reporters and everything like that thought that the fight between Devin Haney and Regis Progress was basically signed. But as Regis Progress had been on camera stating at that point, a few days ago, and representatives therefore Regis Progress had been saying that it hadn't quite been official yet because they haven't had the other side sign the fight. Now, did that mean that, hey, was it something in reference to Devin Haney not quite agreeing to everything that's going down? You know what I'm saying? Maybe not. But with that being said, you will want to really see if Regis Progress has this fight here against Devin Haney, because outside of that, is particularly with the super lightweight division, you really haven't seen anything be put together there for Regis Prograis to have a fight of that high magnitude. We haven't had anything mentioned as far as like unification fights are concerned for Regis Prograis. And as far as like other highly ranked contenders at 140 pounds, you really haven't seen Regis Prograis have like a fight be mentioned with any of those guys there that contend at 140 pounds. So you have there Devin Haney, and yeah, there was also mention of potentially having Regis Prograis fighting Adrian Broner, but for one, I really don't see how that fight could happen, and for two, would there be enough people interested in that fight to where it would kind of like have people say, hey, Prograis gets paid this much, Broner gets paid this much in order for that fight to take place? Yeah, I don't see that really jumping off, man. So it looks like things are heading towards Regis Prograis versus Devin Haney, and it looks like they're going to try to schedule it within the month of December. Now, of course, we have a number of fights that are coming up here in the fall and winter part of the schedule. A number of big fights that will be taking place. So they're trying to fit in to have that fight take place at a particular date that would benefit all parties. Now, it was suggested that you could have had Devin Haney versus Regis Prograis on October 28th or whatever it was, but that had been scrapped. So after that had been basically nixed, there were some doubts that the fight would take place overall. But looks like things are kind of getting towards it to be where you're going to see Devin Haney versus Regis Prograis in the latter part of this year. So 2023 will have another world title bout there with Regis Prograis and Devin Haney. Of course, Devin Haney had defended the undisputed lightweight titles against Vasyl Lomachenko, getting that win there. And with Regis Prograis, he faced Daniel Zorrilla in his hometown. Was able to get the decision win there in his hometown of New Orleans. So he wants to go ahead and get himself a high-profile win and to go up against Devin Haney, who is considered by some as a very talented fighter. Was there, been able to establish himself in the lightweight division, eventually becoming the undisputed lightweight champion. Now he looks to move to another division and become a two-division world champion if he does end up facing Regis Prograis. But I just feel like that is a good matchup there. For both fighters, both I would say technically sound in a way. There are some that kind of give Regis Prograis some type of criticism in a sense because he has some things that he's able to do in the ring, but also has some issues, particularly with the inside game for some. But here against someone like a Devin Haney, he'll be able to use some. I would say use some of his attributes to his advantage, particularly with someone like Devin Haney coming up here to 140 pounds. But on the flip side, we've seen where Devin Haney has kind of had issues trying to keep within that 135-pound limit when he was there in the lightweight division. So maybe this is something where they say, hey, he is overdue for having a fight at 140 pounds. So, hey, if all signs point to this thing here with Regis Prograis going up against Devin Haney, that would definitely be a good bout between those two. But we have to, of course, wait until we see what goes on with that. Now, on the next topic, real quick, of course, over what has it been, the past couple of days, we have heard from the WBA lightweight champion Gervonta Tank Davis, multi-division champion Gervonta Tank Davis. Of course, he had his bout in April against Ryan Garcia at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, scoring the knockout victory there over Ryan Garcia. And then before that, he had his bout over in Washington, D.C. against Hector Luis Garcia. So he's had two big events already here in 2023. And he says he just pretty much like made a post on Twitter himself, saying, hey, move in silence. And that is pretty much has the boxing world buzzing, saying that, hey, maybe he has another fight lined up. And, for me, I kind of like say with him having a fight scheduled in January of this year already having this fight against Ryan Garcia in April, that, kind of like said, hey, he could have another fight this year. And of course, he did have his, brief stint behind bars or prison, whatever. But now that he's back, fully free, everything like that. He's gonna be back. He's back in the gym. He's gonna be back working, of course, over in Baltimore area, of course, with Coach Calvin Ford, Coach Kenny Ellis, and the whole crew there at Upton Gym in Baltimore. Then he's gonna be preparing himself for another fight. Now they've had some inklings as to who his next fight could be. Now there had been a suggestion, not just from fans, but people within the area of Tank Davis's camp or whatnot, saying that it could be him versus Isaac Cruz there once again. Now, one thing that could say that you could have a little bit of a hint that it could be Isaac Cruz is that if folks had checked out the World Boxing Association rankings, the latest rankings for the World Boxing Association that came through a couple of days ago, they had moved Isaac Cruz up to number 1 in the WBA lightweight rankings. Now, like I said, you had Gervonta Davis there as the WBA champion. And, of course, you had the whole WBA champion, super champion, or whatever it is. But I did mention Devin Haney as the undisputed lightweight champion. He's moving up to 140 pounds. So that would pretty much make Tank Davis essentially the full champion there, of course. They're at 135 pounds. So with Isaac Cruz there being at number 1, hey, they could just say, hey, look, we could go ahead and just name Isaac Cruz our mandatory challenger and just had that be the mandatory defense of the WBA lightweight title. So, I mean, of course, no signs are pointing towards that. Now, I mean, Isaac Cruz did have his fight against Giovanni Cabrera a couple months back. And, a number of people were disappointed in Isaac Cruz's performance there against Giovanni Cabrera. And, when people kind of like said, hey, maybe he could be facing Tank Davis again. With that particular performance, a number of fans were not necessarily happy about that performance. But, I mean, you still have this thing here where if there's a potential rematch, this is almost like, back years ago when you had Floyd Mayweather versus Marcos Maidana, where Marcos Maidana had, given Floyd a little bit of a fight, but Floyd ended up winning that first fight, and then they had the rematch where Floyd, had the significant decision win. In the first bout between Tank Davis and Isaac Cruz, of course, Tank Davis had suffered an injury, during the fight. Pretty much fought with one arm for the majority of the fight, and was still able to muster a decision win over Isaac Cruz. But now, they're saying here if they could set up yet another fight between Tank Davis and Isaac Cruz. Maybe it could be another opponent out there, but particularly within the lightweight division, we have a number of those fighters, particularly at the top of the division, that are kind of occupied. We mentioned the thing there with Shakur Stevenson and Frank Martin. That of course there is nothing going to be going down with Vasyl Lomachenko, of course, so that is pretty much out. You have Devin Haney, that kind of like is like I said, moving up to super lightweight. So that kind of like limits the amount of opponents or people that are out there, that Gervonta Tank Davis could face. Of course, they have fighters like maybe Edwin De Los Santos, maybe, or other fighters. Like I said, I mean, Giovanni Cabrera could have had a shot to kind of like take Isaac Cruz out of the paint, but he wasn't able to do that. So that's why, I kind of like say, hey, with Isaac Cruz being moved up to number one in the WBA rankings, that means that there's a highly likely chance that Tank Davis will be facing Isaac Cruz there once again. And I know that, coming off of that first fight, they're saying, hey, maybe, with that, knockout streak or that stoppage streak pretty much like ending there with that Isaac Cruz fight, that, they probably want to have it jumped off again. Of course, Tank Davis was able to get a knockout win over Rolly Romero, was able to get a stoppage over, like I said, Hector Luis Garcia, and then against Ryan Garcia. So, he had one of the highest KO ratios out there in the sport of boxing. And so that's what, kind of like brought him up to being one of the top, guys there in the sport of boxing, or one of the more popular fighters in the sport of boxing, is because of his high KO ratio. And, when it came to that particular fight against Isaac Cruz, some time back, a number of fans wanted to see if he was able to, or going to be able to stop Isaac Cruz, but Isaac Cruz was able to get, there through those 12 rounds, despite what was happening with Tank Davis at that particular time. So if you do kind of like eventually see that it is Isaac Cruz as the opponent for Gervonta Tank Davis, just, be wary that it's pretty much going to be because, one, they wanted to see if he could get to the point where he would be able to stop Isaac Cruz. And Isaac Cruz is a tough fighter overall anyway. You know what I'm saying? It's like he's, kind of like being stopped like that regardless. So I would say that Tank Davis wants that particular, fight to see if he's able to, go ahead and take down Isaac Cruz Gonzalez there, as, even though Isaac has 2 professional losses, none of them were by stoppage. So, I mean, you want to go up against someone like that, I guess, to like kind of like have that on your record to say, I was the first fighter to go ahead and stop Isaac Cruz. So if you do kind of like see that pretty much is what it is. But I mean, like we'll be able to see, more, as far as like what could be next there for sure with Gervonta Tank Davis. All you can do, is hit up the folks over there at the Rise Podcast. Shout out to the Rise Podcast, of course, that goes there, with the access to the camp there of Upton Gym, there with, of course, senior coach Squeeze, Coach Calvin Ford, and Coach Kenny. So, if anything, they'll be able to tell you or pretty much give you a hint as far as like, what the next move really is, or, confirm the next move there for Gervonta Tank Davis. But, like I was saying, some people are pretty much like leaning towards Tank Davis facing Isaac Cruz once again there. And then it would, potentially be for the, as I say, the WBA lightweight championship. So that is that in reference to that. Now, just moving quick, wanted to go into the next topic. This goes into the upcoming bout, September 30th, undisputed versus undisputed, as they say. Canelo Alvarez versus Jermell Charlo. This will be, of course, Canelo Alvarez, undisputed super middleweight champion. Jermell Charlo, undisputed super welterweight champion. And one of the major things there is for Jermell Charlo to go up in weight, not to just 160 pounds, but to 168, just going right up to 168. And that there could be a little bit of a factor there. Of course, folks are talking about, hey, I mean, he kind of like goes down from 170 or whatever it is. This was kind of like mentioned. This was like he goes down from like 170, 172 to get to 154, make it to 154. So in this particular case, he wouldn't necessarily have to do that. But the other thing is, though, is that you're facing someone in Canelo Alvarez who has, been acclimated to the weight, for a good little while. You know what I'm saying? Like he's been there, around 168. He's had a couple of fights that have been at the 175-pound limit, and he's dealing with, or dealing with gloves that are pretty much like different than when you're fighting there at 154 pounds. So that could be something there where you're facing someone in Canelo Alvarez where he could probably make that 168-pound limit, but what will he rehydrate to in comparison to what you rehydrate to? Now thing with Jermell Charlo, of course he could make that 168. I mean, that's no problem. Probably could go into that weigh-in on what is it, September 29th or whatever it is. Probably go into that weigh-in and be like 167, or even lower than that. Probably as low as like 165. But it's just, after that, where's he going to be at as far as like his rehydration, and then be able to deal with the punches coming from Canelo Alvarez? You know what I'm saying? So that kind of like is something where you kind of like say, hey, yeah, I know that it's going to be something where I may not have that many issues making it to 168 or below 168, but my opponent has been there at 168 for a few years. Has had a couple of fights that have been north of 168. So when he rehydrates, he could be at 174, 175, 177, and be able to move like that. So you're gonna be taking shots from fighters that that have been used to that particular weight. Yeah, going into this thing there, folks will talk about size and that, Jermell Charlo could be the quote unquote bigger guy. Well, yeah, he's a taller guy. Yeah, he kind of like has, something where it seems like he looks bigger. But remember, he's been used to fighting at a much lower weight for a long time. He's been at 154 pounds his entire career. So regardless of where he's been coming up or where he's been walking around at, he still has to get down to 154 pounds. But up until this particular point, now he's facing someone where, yeah, you could make 168, or like I said, you could weigh in at 166, 165. But as long as Canelo makes that 168-pound limit, he can still rehydrate to whatever it is above that, whether they have that 10-pound rule or whatever it is, little IBF. So it could be a 178 come fight night or whatever. You still have to deal with that type of size or that type of power that's coming towards you when you're there in the ring. So that's the thing about it, is how is he going to be able to not only handle the extra weight when he goes in there in the fight against Canelo Alvarez, but also how is he going to deal with that particular punching power or whatever it is coming from Canelo Alvarez, and that particular size there from Canelo Alvarez in this particular fight. That's something there that we gotta go ahead and look at. You know what I'm saying? But for me, I just feel like it's going to be something where I feel like Jermell Charlo is going to be able to deal with it. I think with his his skill level and his ability to make adjustments in a fight, particularly in the second half of fights, he's been a good fighter to make adjustments after the first 4 or 5 rounds. So if you really can't get to him after those first 4 or 5 rounds, he figures out a way to get to his opponent. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that will be, a major factor. As long as he's able to deal with, that size thing or weight thing or whatever it is within those first few rounds and be able to pace himself, then I think he'll be able to handle what Canelo Alvarez can do there on September 30th. But with that being said, man, I mean, you got that as being one of those top topics when it comes to this upcoming fight between Canelo Alvarez and Jermell Charlo. And so I kind of like seeing as that being one of those factors leading into the fight But like I said, with it being a high-profile fight, a high-level fight, that both fighters have been involved in multiple high-level fights. I'm not I'm not, too confident that that will be much of a factor come September 30th. So, that's pretty much what I had on that, man. I mean, overall, right now, I mean, uh, the news cycle is kind of like being, we talk about things they're straightforward as far as like what's going on. We kind of like talked about the other topics that have been happening over the course of the week in our latest podcast. So we jumped on that. But we'll have more coming here on this particular channel. We want to have a couple of posts up that will be on the channel here within the next day or so, talking about more topics. We got other folks joining in here on the conversation, giving their takes on some of the top stories within the sport of boxing. So we're going to be posting that as well. So be on the lookout for that, as we're going to have one contributor that has been part of the Boxing Source for years, some years back, that will be on here giving their take on a couple of topics. So we're going to be doing that here a little bit more on this particular channel. So y'all be on the lookout for that. And also, wanted to go ahead and we're going to see if we could post a couple of things, a couple of highlights from the round table. They had a round table for Canelo Charlo that involved four highly regarded trainers there in the sport of boxing. You had Coach Calvin Ford, you had Coach Ronnie Shields, you had Coach Robert Garcia, and you had Coach Bob Santos talking about Canelo versus Charlos. So we have like a little bit of a snippet there that we're going to see if we could share here on the channel as well. But with that being said, that is what we got here real quick with the midweek report. Just want to get it in here. Within I'd say 30 minutes or so, man. And we want to do a little bit more like this here. Every Wednesday, try to stay consistent with it every Wednesday. Usually it's supposed to be much earlier than this, but had a couple of earlier engagements. So we had to pretty much like jump it off around 8:30 p.m. Eastern time here. But we're going to get back with it as far as like the midweek report scheduled for 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. And of course, we have the podcast that is live on YouTube on 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on Sundays. So be sure to go ahead and check that out. Of course, we had one that was a couple of days ago that was for Labor Day. So if y'all haven't checked that out, go ahead and hit the YouTube channel. You'll be able to check out the latest Boxing Source podcast. And then also, if you didn't jump in live here, you could hit the rewind button for the midweek report. Pretty much just was a quick midweek report there for y'all. But also, be sure to hit the like button. We appreciate the support here on the Boxing Source, and check out the boxingsource.net, where you'll be able to catch the latest rankings, of course, from the WBC, WBA, IBF, and WBO, and of course, the Boxing Source pound for pound rankings. So with that being said, hey, the midweek report today is done. We out. Peace.